Congressman, a lot has been said by a lot of candidates, the president himself included, about their plan to boost the economy, to create jobs. Is it possible for the president all by himself to do that, to boost the economy and to create jobs, or does it take something far more than that?
No. Presidents don't create jobs. Governments can't create jobs. A president's important in trying to create the atmosphere where jobs can be created, which means that he has to lead the way to an economic system that provides for jobs. That means sound money, balanced budgets, low taxes, less regulations. And this would lead to it, but then you have to restore confidence. So the president, in leading this way, can help restore the confidence. But so there's there's more to it than just one president getting up and say, "Oh, I'm going to create jobs." If a president does, he creates the wrong kind of jobs. He creates bureaucracies that cost a lot of money, and that's our problem. We have too many government jobs now, and it doesn't solve the problem.
You mentioned leading the way that a president can do. Be as specific as you can about, if elected, how you would go about boosting the economy and, so importantly, creating jobs, especially in an economy where jobs are so necessary.
We have to quit the bailouts. You have to get rid of the bad mistakes, the malinvestment, and the debt. The debt has to be removed from the books. Japan has refused to do that. We refused to do it in 1930, and all it does is prolong the agony. So you have to change their old policy. This is what's difficult, though, is people in this country have been conditioned that government's supposed to take care of us. Anytime there's a problem, instead of saying the government created the problem, get the government out of the way, they think the free enterprise system created the problem and the government's going to come in and protect us. And it's the other way around. The government created the problem. The government should get out of the way. The debt has to be reduced, and the whole atmosphere of taxation and regulations has to change.
I'm glad you addressed taxation. The president's new tax plan would levy $1.5 trillion in new taxes against the wealthiest Americans over 10 years, but would then cut $1.5 trillion in taxes to the middle class. Can you make a promise at this stage of your campaign that you will not turn to higher taxes to try to finance your programs and the things that you're doing in government?
That's not a very difficult promise for me to make, because I've made that many years ago when I first ran for office. Never voted for a tax increase, never voted for any of this spending. So that is what is necessary, and people who know my record know that I would never push through a tax increase.
You mentioned several programs that you don't think government needs, Department of Education among them. Republicans tend to believe in smaller government. What are the top 3 programs that you would cut or eliminate if you're elected president?
I usually go by departments. Okay. They're bigger, and I'd like more than 3. Department of Education, Department of Energy, and the Department of Commerce. We don't need all that management. So yes, and a lot more. We would just need to go back to the original few departments that we had at one time. But we have to get the people to understand why, and why it's in their interest to do so.
You mentioned education in your speech, and so I want to press you a little on education. Why education? Is it a belief that local school districts can do the job by themselves?
Sure, but we don't have the constitutional authority to tell Iowa, how to run their schools, and they should. And the price goes up for education, the cost goes up, and the quality does not go up. Most people now do not say, "Oh, No Child Left Behind. This was a great program." Both conservatives and liberals are pretty annoyed with that. So yes, when you have the government involved, you hire a lot of bureaucrats, and the students don't benefit, and the teachers don't benefit. And school, the more local, from my viewpoint, the better. But under the Constitution, the states can do whatever they want. The states should sort that all out. But right now, there's so much frustration that there's a lot of people who are looking for alternatives, like homeschooling and private schooling and the various alternatives.
You talk about the departments that you would cut because they're bigger and more manageable to do so. I want to get specific with programs. Your thoughts on how long the president's health care law will stick around if you're elected president?
I can't repeal the law, but you could change it a lot where it'd be very ineffective. You wouldn't, because the president does have these the option of giving people a pass and not have to force them into it. So I wouldn't force anybody into it.
Is there an opportunity, though, at some level to be able to change the law? And if there were change coming, if you could make a change to the law, what would that change be?
The most important thing is to make it very, very clear and explicit that anybody that doesn't want to end it, they can opt out. That should be the most important thing that we do. These mandates, whether it's medical care or whatever, I think is just opposite of what a free society is all about.
You took time to mention the wars that we're fighting all around the world. I want to address specifically the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. If you're elected president, should we stick to the timeline that the Obama administration has laid out for leaving those two countries? Would you accelerate it? How would you approach the timeline?
I would accelerate it tremendously. I mean, weeks, month or two, as soon as it's feasible, just say, announce to the world that we're coming home. I mean, we finally had to do that in Vietnam after all that tragedy and 60,000 lives lost. And I described in my talk today how many, you know, if you add up all the Americans killed, it's over 8,000 now, and 40,000 severely wounded. That's enough. That's enough. And we're not going to, you know, take Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq and turn them into what we think is an idealistic country molded after ours.
Do you think they've come about as far as they can with Americans in place?
Yeah, and I think it's as far as I can. That's not very far. I think it's all been not worth the effort.
Bring all the troops home. You think that also helps stimulate the economy at the same time?
Yeah, you know, if you're looking for something immediate, all of a sudden all those salaries would be spent here at home. Maybe a few of them would need to buy a house, you know, you can't tell. So it would be great. You know, after World War II, the World War II spending was I think the whole budget was cut like in half because we were spending so much, and taxes went down a third. And that is actually when the Depression ended after World War II. So it wasn't like they came home and they were all unemployed. They all came home and there was now economic growth. Debt had been eliminated. The debt that it didn't allow to be eliminated in the Depression had been eliminated. So it took all those years to liquidate the debt and the bad investment, cut the taxes and cut the spending, and the troops came home. So that could happen again if we did it properly.